The Chicago Cubs take care of the Milwaukee Brewers at the friendly confines, while the Chicago White Sox stunned the St. Louis Cardinals on the road. NASCAR 400 had a photo finish, while the NBA playoffs saw a Game 7 winner move on in the Cleveland Cavaliers, while the defending world champion Denver Nuggets get stunned at home by the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll have a special short edition of Old School TV Monday, and Lakina will give her Cisco and Ebo review on Tom Brady's roast last night that aired on Netflix. That and a whole lot more as the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Mrs. Kim McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kim McGee on the Twitter, X, that is going in the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow on all social media platforms at WARR Media. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite sports opinions due to our extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakita will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and don't do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full powers to give you fools to be able to be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color right now on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and give the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download the Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, or your Android, just hit up the Google Play Store, download the Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and give it the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And we'll be providing you for some of the best here on Second City Sports as we kick off first Monday in May. Of course, as says in the teaser, you got both the NBA and NHL playoffs going to second rounds. We already have some thrilling Game 7s and a surprise in the semifinals in the NBA. Some very, very close finishes in both NASCAR and the 150th Kentucky Derby. Special edition of Old School TV Monday, Tom Brady's roast, and a whole lot more. But first, we do some baseball, and let's go to the north side first.
In the air, softly hit right field. Tachman charging, makes a basket catch, throw back to first. That's a double play.
2 away. Morrell at the plate with a 2-2 count.
Swing and a high fly ball out towards left field. That one towards the corner, and that one is gone. Way out of here. Christopher Morrell, a towering home run, and the Cubs add on. It is now 4-0.
Armstrong, who drove in the first Chicago run on a ground out.
Line drive towards the right field corner. That one hooking. Fair ball into the corner. Pete Crow Armstrong racing for second. And he's in there. It's an RBI double, and it's 5-2.
All right, that was Marquee Network, and Apparently, that was the wrong clip. I guess that was from Friday's game, of course, because we were that 5-0 lead. But not to worry though, they did come back, to win the next two, but against the Brewers, so they didn't win 2 out of 3. So the bullpen still a little bit iffy, but they got a big win against your NL Central rivals. You're half game up right now as we're recording this. So if you're the Cubs, you gotta be feeling pretty good. Would have been nice if they had swept the Brewers. No, but the fact that they were able to bounce back from that disappointing loss on Friday just shows you that, okay, you know what, they can do this.
Even though the Cubs do not have a full roster right now, health-wise, they still have players that can step up to the plate. Hayden Wesneski, who did not work out as a fifth starter last year, he was great out of the bullpen a year ago. He was their emergency starter on Friday. Actually pitched well and held a 1-0 lead for Chicago until Albert Alzolay came in there and gave up all 3 runs to those 3 batters that he gave up a hit or a walk. And the Cubs blew the game there, but the Cubs did show some heart these last 2 days, beating Milwaukee 6-5 last Saturday, and of course a 5-0 shutout yesterday. And Javier Assad pitched a great game yesterday. I talked about him and Jordan Wicks being the back end of that rotation with Justin Steele and Kyle Hendricks being down right now via the injuries. Those 2 guys have really stepped up. And let's not forget about Shota Imanaga. Of course, he did not pitch in this series this weekend against the Brewers, but he's one of the league leaders in ERA in the National League. Overall, the Cubs starting pitching staff has given up only 2 earned runs in their last 5 games. So, yeah, despite all the injuries, you got to get the starting staff their props. But as usual, the bullpen has been a problem all year long.
Yeah, you listen to Sports on Chicago. Keenan McGee, Sydney Brown with you. Now they were up 1-0 in that Friday game. They were able to come back and win that Saturday game. Then, of course, Assad had that great outing last night. They were able to shut out the Brewers. Now, they're now tied with the Brewers right now in the NL Central, and they play the Padres starting tonight, I should say. So that should be a fun series. And, of course, it looks like Seiya will be back during that series, also Justin Steele as well. So they are getting some reinforcements. But the fact that they have one of the best records in the National League, I think, kind of shows the resilience of this Cubs squad. So the fact that they were able to kind of weather the storm, if you will, and they were able to kind of, there were some games you said they probably, they still bullpen. They probably should have a better record, but even still, I think you gotta be feeling pretty good. 21-14, considering everything that's been going on, that's pretty good. You gotta be feeling pretty good if you're a Cubs fan.
Give Craig Counsell, the Cubs' new manager, credit for keeping his guys motivated. And as I said on the show last week, if you don't step up to the plate, whatever role he gives you, if you don't step up to the plate, he's going to yank you out of there and put someone else in. And that's what teams need. A coach and a manager is going to hold players accountable, set them to a certain standard. If you don't meet those standards, then you're going to be gone. So that's what I like about Craig Counsell thus far from the outside looking in. Also, to one of your main guys need to step up, and we talked about this player last week. I'll mention him here, Dansby Swanson, who hit a whole solo home run yesterday. He has 4 home runs now on the year, and I talked about his defense was starting to lack. You could tell the last couple weeks his confidence was starting to wane because he was struggling at the plate, and he brought that to the field, which contributing him to struggle defensively. But he shouldn't have gotten that error on Saturday, but it didn't go down. And say he rebounded yesterday. He had a great game, not only at the plate, but on the field as well. So hopefully, as I talked about last week, looks like Dansby Swanson is starting to turn it around at the plate, but hopefully his momentum can continue turning it around on the field.
But this guy has like 2 or 3 gold gloves to his credit. So the fact that he was struggling on defense really did surprise me. Like, he is starting to kind of, turn the corner, and he had that big catch yesterday to keep the shutouts going. So yeah, I think if you gotta be really pretty good if you're Swanson, Nico Horner has stepped up a lot. We talked about Assad, his great start, 6, only gave like 2 hits or something like that. So that's definitely a good thing, especially with the starting rotation and the pitching, being questionable and shorthanded as it is. So, you're getting some contributions from various guys. Like I say, you have guys like Seiya and Justin Steele coming back. So you gotta be really pretty good, Cubs fan. I mean, that bullpen's still gonna give people's heart attacks and ulcers. And I don't know what can you do about that. I mean, can you try to wait it out and see? Do you try to make a trade? We'll talk about the Padres. Speaking of, may made a trade. We'll talk about that after the break. But Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be, yeah. I mean, but it is what it is. I guess they have been involved with the bullpen, but I don't know. Well, I don't know what's the answer there for the bullpen. I don't know.
Yeah, you rarely make big trades, especially at this time of year. We were barely only a month into over a month into the season. Usually, you don't see big trades until around after June, of course, into July, going towards that July 31st deadline. But I heard a couple of shows over the weekend. I was listening to it. I said, "Oh, go get Michael Kopech from the White Sox. He'll fit this team." I said, "Michael Kopech is still trying to work on. He's trying to be a relief pitcher again. Why won't you throw him in this situation where he could potentially do worse?" I still believe in his talent when he's right mentally, he's right physically, but sometimes he's not there. It takes a certain mentality to close out games, and in a high pressure situation, especially with this Cubs team, with all the expectations on them, expecting them to go to the playoffs. I don't think he's the answer. At least not right now. He hasn't straightened out the kicks to be dominant. Like it's like I'll get on Pedro Grifol after the break, but I don't think Michael Kopech is the answer right now. But I don't think they have any choice, Lakina. You can't send everybody down to the minor leagues. You really don't have any options free agency wise. It was right in there in front of you in the offseason. They really didn't do anything about it. Hector Neris, your current closer for the Cubs, he's been doing the job so far. But will he stay there? There remains to be seen. But I don't think they have a choice but to look from within until at least the end of June going into July.
Some people said Josh Nader, perhaps, from the Astros, especially after what happened to them on over the weekend. But again, we'll get to that after the break. But I don't know if there's really anything they can do right now. I mean, it's hopefully waiting out. Hopefully it gets better by the All-Star break. If not, by the deadline, you may have to perhaps maybe make some calls or whatever. But I think if you're Jed Hoyer, you got to wonder, okay, what can we do here? So you don't want to be too far. You got to hope that you're kind of like right there in that division, either like near the top or at the top, so that you'll feel like the pressure of having to, we got to get somebody. We get somebody from a middle reliever. We got to get a reliever. So yeah, hopefully, but I'm sure. Look, I trust Jed Hoyer and Connor Hawkins, so hopefully they'll figure it out.
I don't want to take a page out of the White Sox playbook, but you are in the NL Central right now.
Right.
And it's a very competitive division. Cincinnati is having an up and down season so far. You look at St. Louis, they lost 2 out of 3 to the White Sox. They're back to below 500. Pittsburgh has come back down to earth. So as long as the Cubs play slightly above 500, they're going to be there. And let's give before we break for the bottom of the hour, let's give props to these 2 young guys that's contributing to this team right now. Hometown guy Mike Tauchman is coming up with big hits again. And Pete Armstrong, he may be a victim of circumstance where Cody Bellinger comes back and Seiya Suzuki comes back off their various injuries, but he has done a great job so far in center field.
Yeah, he's really good, and look. If you're Craig Counsell, that's not a bad problem to have. Armstrong can pretty much play any position, so you definitely wouldn't. When Bellinger comes back, you could probably maybe use him at different parts because you'll have to send him back down. And Tauchman. Look, usually we wait till the summer of Tauchman. Now we're getting that kind of like the spring of Mike Tauchman. So it's a pretty good thing. All right, so let's take a really quick break. We'll talk about the South Side as the Sox actually took the series against St. Louis. What? But I'm sure Sid will have a lot to say about that. And also some of the other weird things that happened. And the Dodgers sent a message to the National League. And a whole lot more, all other kinds of craziness. I always say, "What's up, Brandon Schultz? How's your Astros doing?" I'm just saying. But, love it, Brandon. We love that you listen. You always support us. So, Lakina McKee, City Barrel, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Diamond Talk coming up after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Hitter because it takes away a release point from Garrett.
And Garrett Crochet, the strikeout of Donovan is hit hard, straightaway center, backing up is Carlson, and it'll one hop into the stand. So a double for Paul DeYoung to start with one out in this top of the second. One strike to count on Ramos as the infield comes in. Ramos gives this one a charge to left center. Catch is made. It'll be deep enough to score. Paul DeYoung from third. Well hit out to center field. Carlson going back, looking up, and it is gone. A solo shot for Eloy Jimenez, his fourth of the season.
All right, and that was courtesy of NBC Sports Chicago as the Sox took 2 out of 3 in St. Louis. Look, Eloy had a couple big home runs. There was actually one game on Saturday where I think it was like delayed for like 3 hours or so, and they had to only hit. It was only in the 10th inning. They only needed one out. I'm talking about the Sox. They were able to pull that off. And even though the Cardinals had the bases loaded, yesterday's game, Garrett Crochet had an okay start. Not the best start, but the offense did enough to win that series for them. And I guess you could say that maybe, like I said, they have 8 wins now, the Sox do, and like I said last week, I guess they're actually not getting their butts kicked, and the losses have actually been entertaining. So I guess that's one. I guess there's a right side, maybe. I don't know.
They're getting. I know style points doesn't exist in professional sports, but if it did, the White Sox would take home the top award for that. Welcome back to Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you as we discuss the White Sox, the Cubs, and Major League Baseball. If you want to get at us via the comments section, go to Sports on Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports on Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions, comments in the comments section. Lakina will get the up on the screen for you. Back to the White Sox, as you mentioned, Garrett Crochet, 6 innings pitched with 6 strikeouts. His record is now 2-4 on the season. Eric Fedde, who was the hottest pitcher in his last 3 starts for the Southsiders, he had a rough go at it on Saturday with in 4 innings, giving up 5 earned runs and only 2 strikeouts. But the Sox, as you mentioned, were able to win that game on Saturday, 6-5 in 10 innings after almost 3-hour rain delay. Did you check out Breida, who was pitching at the time? Lakita, that rain was coming down hard. He was soaked. I know he was doing his best to try to keep that baseball dry and get up out of there. But the grounds crew for the Cardinals like, nope, gotta get your butts up the field and weigh this one out. It turned out it was beneficial to the White Sox. They got the victory. But yesterday, the Bats came out scoring 4 runs in the 7th inning. Your guy Eloy hit his 4th home run of the year. It took us a long time to pull teeth to get him off the field. Now, so hopefully that's had to take that long to get Gavin Sheets out of right field and get him in the DH. But that's another issue. But the Sox looked like a professional team yesterday. I know they're going to face the Tampa Bay Rays on the road starting tonight. But for the White Sox, Lakita, who's going to stay healthy? And number 2, who's going to be the young guys you're going to count on going forward whenever this Sox team decides to compete again?
And you know the Rays are going to want to get a little get back after a couple of weeks ago when they got swept. So yeah, they're coming to their house now. So I mean, look. I mean, the Sox did. It was very solid. I actually saw the game yesterday. They actually played pretty well. They actually defended. There were actually a couple of times when Cardinals actually threatened. Especially the bottom of the 8th, they were able to get out of that. So yeah, they actually looked pretty decent. So okay, take a little solace in that. So, Eloy, I mean, I know some Sox fans, they'll probably say, if he keep this up and perhaps maybe even stays out of the IL, you can probably perhaps maybe put him, on the trade market for, Chris Getz to do. So, 8-26, okay, yeah, they actually looked somewhat decent. All right, so, but like I said, it gets a little bit tougher for the Sox. Like I said, they're going down to Tampa and continue their road trip, and they're going to want a little get back to what happened a couple of weeks ago. So I'll be waiting for them.
Yes, and let's go to the rest of Major League Baseball from this past weekend. I want to start off with a team that they're not getting any respect right now. At least a few people are talking about, and that's the Oakland Athletics. They are now 17-7 on the year, and they failed to sweep the Miami Marlins. The Marlins won the series finale yesterday. I got a chance to catch some of that, but the Oakland Athletics did something that rare feat that hasn't been done in a long time. In their win last Saturday afternoon, 20-4 over the Marlins. Brett Harris, his first 2 career hits turned out to be home runs. Let me repeat that. His first 2 career hits were both home runs. And guess where he's from?
Is he from here?
Yes, Arlington Heights.
Nice. Local kid, we're doing good. Look,
so like I said, congratulations to him.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have him. They have Nick Gordon, who's been very solid for them, and I mean, it's sort of the Marlins. For Nick Gordon, he had like 4 RBIs, but yeah, Brent Rooker, who's like you said, he homered twice. They've actually got a pretty solid young nucleus here. Of course, they got Brett Harris. So yeah, it's one of those days where look, I mean, I know people will say with all the weird stuff that's been happening with the A's and they're wherever they're gonna go. To their credit, they've been able to kind of shutter that noise and actually play good, decent baseball. And speaking of that 20-4 route on Saturday, yeah, it had 5 multi-home runs, by Rooker, and with 2 in the inning with with all that, 2 home runs that game for his first career hits. Yeah, that is definitely the first over an entire MLB career, let alone by one person on one team in one game. So they scored a lot of runs. That's basically the thing here. And look, I mean, you look at the A's, and some people say, look, they're no pushover. So I'm not going to say they're going to win the AL West, but they're not going to be, you're not going to be able to look at them and say, oh, that's an easy win.
No, and like you said, wherever the issues going on from the outside, they're not letting it affect them. And the way they play it right now, no one expected them to do too much. But I think they're much better. At least they play much better than what people expect. They can go out there play free and easy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes with the young team, they need to experience that and just go out there and play free and see what happens. Let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, on Friday, Ross Stripling had got his first win in almost 2 years. So he pitched 6 strong innings of scoreless baseball in that Friday game against the Marlins. So yeah, I mean the A's. Watch out for the A's, folks. They're not look, they're not going to be pushovers. So congrats to them, and I hope they can keep it up now. As for the Orioles, let's go O's, as they say. They sweep the Reds. I mean, look, the Orioles are actually doing exactly what we thought they would. I mean, Dean Kremer, had a really solid outing yesterday to seal the sweep against the Reds. Santander had a really good series. Ali Rossman, of course. Cedric Mullins did a good job as well. So I mean, they're getting touches from everybody at Baltimore is.
Yeah, we always talk about their offense, but like you said, their starting pitching is starting to turn it around. Their bullpen is solid. I know they signed Craig Kimbrell in the offseason. I know he had a little hiccup on Saturday, but he's been really solid from them. In that tough division, the AL, the East, you need to have all your parts in order with the Yankees and the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. So it's going to be very competitive, and they had to do their best to stay ahead of the competition.
Speaking of the Yankees, they sweep the Tigers, but something happened for the first time in Aaron Judge's career. He got ejected on Saturday, and he shouldn't have. I mean, he really didn't say anything, so I don't. So I mean, some of these umpires. I mean, good Lord. I mean, like balls is trying. I think that umpire just wanted to say, hey, I ejected Aaron Judge. That's just me. Yeah. But you know how some of these umps are. They want to like, hey, look at me. That's just.
Yeah, I know it's a respectable profession. They have a tough job, but we didn't come to see you. We came to see the players, and that's how it goes. But Aaron Judge got that Tim Duncan tree. Remember Tim Duncan back? I forgot what year it was. I think it was 06 or 07. He was sitting on the bench, and now ex-referee Joey Crawford saw him. Tim Duncan was basically laughing on the bench, and then Joe Crawford decided to tee him up and throw him out. I was like, Tim Duncan doesn't get angry except for swap balls out of the opponent's hands. Like, what did I do to get technical foul? So, like you mentioned, Aaron Judge got the Tim Duncan treatment, didn't deserve it, but despite that, as you mentioned, the Yankees swept the Tigers over the weekend. I think the Tigers are still going to be there for the wild card spot, but their starting pitcher got to tighten up a bit. I like their bullpen. Their offense is hit and miss at times, but they stepped up to the big stage and I'm talking about for the Tigers, they stepped up to the big stage, and they're not ready just yet.
No, they definitely struggled in that series. And incidentally, Judge came back yesterday and hit a home run. So, that was yes, exactly. Staying in there, speaking of the Rays, as I was saying, they swept the Mets. Looks like they got their I think they're starting to turn a corner a little bit. They had a walk-off home run yesterday. So, I think they might be starting to turn a corner a little bit. They've got guys back, so the Sox might be, and I'm sure they're going to be waiting for this. They're going to wait for the Sox down there in Tampa.
For the White Sox, no Garrett Crochet, no Eric Fetty in this series. So Tampa Bay is going to try to keep up that momentum offensively. You saw Friday's game; it was 10-8, and of course, yesterday, as you mentioned, they got the walk-off win. When Randy Rosarena is still hitting out there, Yonder Diaz, and their pitching is what I'm concerned about right now. I'm talking about Tampa Bay, particularly their starting pitching, and that needs to be straightened out. But the offense is intact, so we'll see what happens. Like I said, they did a good job against the Mets this weekend. The Mets couldn't build off of that momentum, splitting the series against the Cubs at home last week. They're starting to go down. But for Tampa Bay, it's a good time for them to get back on track because, like you said, they have the White Sox at home this week.
Oh, hello, darkness, my old friend. This is Legacy Sports on Chicago. Steve Brown with you. Not in terms of that, but in terms of the Blue Jays. The last place Blue Jays, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Nationals, also blowing an 8-0 lead. So it's safe to say that the Blue Jays have officially hit bottom, I guess. I don't know what's going on up there up north.
I will say this. I believe this was yesterday's game. Did you see that amazing catch down the foul territory, down the first base line by Vladimir Guerrero Jr.?
Yeah, I saw that.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
His dad did it more than a few times too back in his day.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. They're 16-19. Don't know what's going on up there. But my pick of them going to the wild card is not looking good right now. But let's go to the Central, the AL Central, Sid, as Cleveland, they're starting to kind of get on a roll a little bit. They win 2 out of 3 against the Angels, and it looks like they're starting to kind of get it going. Unfortunately, though, Stephen Kwan is going to the IL with a rib injury. So, that's a tough loss for them. But they do have a lot of depth, so they're well ahead in the AL Central right now. So maybe they can kind of overstand Kwan's absence.
Yeah, that's going to be tough because Stephen Kwan is one of the best defensive young outfielders in the game, and he's one of the best leadoff hitters in the game. So that is going to hurt Cleveland for a while. But they're hitting, they're catching, they're pitching it, and that's one of the reasons why they're leading the AL Central right now over Minnesota and Detroit. So, like I said, this will be a slight step back, but we'll see what happens with them going forward. But they did take care of business against an injured and lesser team, and as you mentioned, with the Anaheim Angels.
We'll see how they do. Excuse me. Minnesota. They lose the rubber. They lose. They didn't get to sweep against the Red Sox, but they did win 2 out of 3. So maybe Minnesota, especially after what they did to the White Sox, they're starting to get a little bit more momentum. A little bit.
Yeah, they had that 12-game winning streak snapped, and like you said, the last couple of years, Minnesota has had the majority of their guys healthy, like Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton being back up. He's playing more of the outfield again this year. I know he's still going to continue to DH in some games to save his legs, but Minnesota's pitching has been good enough. I haven't been impressed by their pitching the last couple of years. I know Sonny Gray, who was there, he's no longer there, has held the fort down, but their offense has to start hitting once again. I know they did it against the White Sox, a lesser opponent. I know they did it to a lesser extent this past weekend against Boston. But I want to see Minnesota's pitching, especially their bullpen, hold up for longer stretches. They've done it so far, but I want to see them holding up for longer stretches.
Because things are kind of starting to get wheels starting to fall off a little bit in Kansas. For Kansas City, the Royals lose 2 out of 3 to the Rangers.
Yeah, I'm not going to say this is the old 3 version of the Kansas City Royals, but welcome to the big show. As we talked about last week, the defending world champion Texas Rangers are starting to get it together. Their bullpen has actually been solid. It looks like their offense has started to come around. Of course, Jonah Helm is there. Janikowski is still there. Don't forget about Adolis Garcia. He's still one of the best young hitters in the game. So, and Marcus Semien as well. So, Texas has been known for offense for years, but their pitch is finally starting to come around. They did last year. It looks like it's starting to come into form right now.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. That should be interesting what happens there. Now, going to the AL West, the Mariners, the division leading Mariners, they win 2 out of 3 against the Astros. A tough series against the Astros. Cal Raleigh had a walk-off home run to take the series for the Mariners. So they're starting to get it together. Sorry, Brandon. They're starting to get it together a little bit. Love it, Brandon.
Yeah, we talked about Seattle's bullpen in particular needed to turn things around, and they did the job yesterday, and they did the job on Saturday, shutting out the Astros 5-0 on national television last Saturday afternoon. But, their starting pitching has talking about Seattle, it really stepped up as well. Gilbert on Saturday pitched 6 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts here. 8 innings, I should say, giving up 2 hits, 4 walks, but 8 strikeouts. So they gave a couple free passes to the Astros, but they did not let them get past home plate, so that was key there. And for the Astros, we talked about them all year long, struggling with injuries. They have a new manager now, so I know Justin Verlander made his way back a couple weeks ago, so they need some other guys to come back, but more importantly, in the short term, they need the offense as a whole to get back on track. You still have Jose Altuve. You have Jose Abreu, who's traditionally has struggled through the first 2 months of the year. He needs to get going. Kyle Tucker needs to pick it up. McCormick needs to pick it up as well. But in the short term, their offense for the Astros must carry this team through. We said it last year, and it worked to get them to the playoffs, but it hasn't worked out for various reasons for the start of this season.
Yeah, didn't Abreu get sent down? I thought I read that somewhere over the weekend. Maybe I misread that, but going to about the Texas Rangers, Wyatt Langford, their top rookie, he's going to the IL for the hamstring, so that's might be a loss for the defending champs. But they like we said, they did take 2 out of 3 from the Royals, so they're still right there with the Mariners in the AL West. So they're definitely staying right there with the champs.
Yeah, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid McKinney here with you discussing Major League Baseball. If you have any questions or comments for us, do like what Brandon Schutz did. Go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. type in those questions and comments in the comment section. Lakino will get them up on the screen for you. Lakino, this was supposed to be the series of the year on the West Coast. The LA Dodgers dominated the Atlanta Braves, sweeping them in 3 games. Shohei Ohtani, bring him out. He brought out his bats. He had 3 home runs in the series. Woo-wee. And everybody was worried about him a month ago.
He had 8 hits, 6 RBIs, 5 runs, and also 2 stolen bases. He's the 5th player since 1920 when RBI became an official stat to reach each of those milestones, each of those numbers in a three-game series. So, it was a Shohei Ohtani series, and Atlanta. I know Spencer Strider, he's not there. Their pitching is going to have to kind of step up a little bit, but now that he's out. So, but the Dodgers sent the message that, hey, you know what? We may have had a little bit of kinks on the way, but look, we're still the team to beat in the National League. Yeah,
the Atlanta Braves pitcher did not look good over the weekend. Max Fried, who had a start in that series, he didn't look good either. He's supposed to be the next guy up, and he got shelled as well. So I think Atlanta's still going to be okay, but for the Dodgers, as we said before, with their pitching, it looks like Walker Buehler may be back soon. They're starting to get some guys back in the starting rotation. Their offense wasn't clicking all the way to start the year, but looks like they have it on the matter right now.
Padres sitting within distance. They beat the Diamondbacks 2-3, and they actually had a big trade with the Marlins, trading for all-star outfielder Luis Arias, and he also got a big hit in that first game of that series that kind of led the way there. So, and even better, too, the Marlins are actually chipping in the rest of the salary, so they don't have to worry about that. The Padres too, so. That's a whole different situation. But a nice showing there. They did lose the rubber match 11-4, so they didn't get the sweep. But they're still within striking distance with the Dodgers. So that's all you can ask for the Padres.
Yeah, that's all you ask for in San Diego. We talk about the big names all the time. Former White Sox pitcher Dylan Cease. You still had Jake Conner, Jackson Profar, and you still had Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis. As long as San Diego can stay above 500. And stay majority injury-free, which is very difficult to do, they'll be in those 3 wildcard spots representing the National League when it's all said and done. I don't think they overtake the Dodgers either, but they could be a playoff team via the wild card.
Yeah, they actually play the rubber match of this series tonight, but the Phillies have won 5 straight, and including 3 out of 4. Now, like I said, they're actually playing the last game of that series in a rare Monday ender. But, they've been – look, the Phillies, they're taking advantage of the Braves kind of just going through it right now. Bryce Harper had a very big series. Alec Baum had a big series so far as he's been, had some big hits too. Schwarber's been doing his thing. The pitch has been really solid for them. So, the Phillies, look, they're kind of like, hey, look, they're taking advantage of those injuries with the Braves.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Phillies are 24-11 right now, as you mentioned, all the big names. Their offense is starting to come around. I still have the Braves, the Dodgers, and the Cubs as my top 3 offensive teams in the National League. You had better add the Phillies in there as well, and I'm going to. So you saw what they did against the Giants over the weekend. But we know what Philadelphia's issues have been over the years is their bullpen, and right now is doing an adequate job. But as you mentioned, this team is being carried by the offense right now, and their great starting pitcher. Let's not forget as well, you mentioned Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. Yeah,
the pitch has been really good. They need to keep that up too since they got the hitting down pat. Now the Pirates, they've been struggling a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but they did, take care of business against the Rockies, winning 2 out of 3 after losing a tough one on Friday. They did win the last 2 to take the series. So the Pirates, I know they were in first place early, but it's kind of like similar to what happened last year. They kind of fell off after about a month and a half. Don't know if they're going to be up there for the wild card spots, but the Pirates are a decent team, so they can kind of stay within distance at least.
Well, they kind of got healthy for a second. We all know how terrible Colorado is, so we won't waste any more breath on them.
Nah, absolutely not. Anything else before we go into this week's schedule?
Did we cover every series? Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did. Oh, well, we did. Okay, so let's go.
Yes, we did.
Oh, yeah, cool. So let's get to this week's series. Of course, I talked about the Giants and the Phillies finishing up their series. In a couple, they start in a couple hours at 3:05. The first game of the series will be on FS1 as Detroit faces first place Cleveland. Then you have the Angels and the Pirates. We talked about the Rays hosting the White Sox. That should be an interesting series considering what happened a couple weeks ago. Milwaukee coming off that tough series loss, and they go to Kansas City, and we'll see if the Royals can get back on track there. Of course, the Padres and the Cubs, and should be a good one here. Seattle and Minnesota.
Yeah, the rest of the schedule for tonight will be the New York Mets will visit St. Louis to take on the Cardinals, and the Texas Rangers will go out west to face the Oakland Athletics, and the Miami Marlins will play the Los Angeles Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. The rest of the series for this week, they will start tomorrow, Arizona and Cincinnati. Toronto will face Philadelphia. This should be a high-power offensive series. We'll see about that. The Beltway series in the DMV, the Washington Nationals will host the Baltimore Orioles. This should be fun. Washington a couple of games of the 500, but that's a team that no one expected to flirt around 500 this year. And to our buddy Brandon Schutz, as he mentioned in the comments, we saw it. The Astros and Yankees will start a big 3-game series in NYC. Tomorrow's game nationally can be seen on TBS. That's at 6 o'clock Chicago time. Other series that will start tomorrow, Boston and Atlanta. And let's see, Seattle and Minnesota, you mentioned earlier. San Francisco at Colorado. Those are the other series that will be starting tomorrow for this week.
Yeah, I know San Francisco would love to get back on track. So, playing Colorado to cure what ails you. So we'll see what happens there. And that is good for this week in MLB.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKenna here with you. We talked about the Oakland Athletics earlier, and I just mentioned about the Washington Nationals. Who are your surprise teams or your disappointing teams so far through the first month of the year in MLB?
I'll say disappointing, definitely Toronto. I thought they would be up there with the other AL East teams and be right there. They're having some various issues. So as Richard Dice from the Athletic say, because he lives in Toronto, this is usually the time when where some moves have to be made. So we'll see within the next few weeks, especially if they don't get together or try to at least get back on track. I think everything else for the most part is kind of what I expect. I mean, Seattle and Texas, they're kind of right there. I mean, Oakland will, like I said, I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but they'll definitely give teams fit throughout the season. Phillies, again, they're taking advantage of Atlanta's injury, so hopefully they can keep it up. I'm only surprised because they're kind of in the first place right now in the NL East. Not because of their record, but because I've especially like I said, they took advantage of some of the things going on there. I mean, everything else is kind of going as expected. I mean, the Dodgers. They had the little they had a little hiccup earlier, but it looks like they're starting, especially Shohei now with the big series he had against the Braves. I think the Dodgers are going to be just fine. They got Walker Buehler back. We'll see what happens with the rest of their pitching, but I think the Dodgers will be taken off after this. So what about you? What are your surprises and or disappointing teams?
I was going to say Cleveland. I thought they were going to be competitive, but I didn't think they were going to lead the AL Central the way they have done it so far. They've done it so far mostly through offense. And when you mentioned with the injury to Stephen Kwan with his left hamstring, he injured yesterday, now going on the IL. We'll see how they get through this tough time. The Kansas City Royals, 20-15. They send all the bad players up north to Chicago to play on the south side. But right now, despite that series loss at home over the weekend to the defending champion Texas Rangers, they're 20-15 right now. Can they keep it up? I don't know if they can, but we'll see what happens there. The Milwaukee Brewers, I know they lost 2 out of 3 on the north side here in Chicago. They're still 20-13 right now. Can they keep it up? I think they can keep it up because they have a more balanced team than Kansas City. So now I'm not going to sit here and say Milwaukee is going to win the division, but they have some players over there. They know what to do. They play a fine style of game. So I think Milwaukee will be competitive. They're not going to scare anybody. I think they'll be competitive, of course. And like you mentioned with Seattle and Texas, we expected that. And like I said, the Astros, I didn't pick them to go to the playoffs this year, but I didn't expect them to fall out like this. But as we mentioned at the top of the segment, they had a lot of injuries, especially to their starting rotation.
It'll be interesting to see if we have the same conversation in a couple of months, before the All-Star break. We'll see if a lot of those things changes. Some might change, some will stay the same. So we'll see what happens. Should be fun and interesting next couple of months in baseball.
Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you're listening and watching Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. The NBA playoffs are now entering the second round action. We had an upset at home on the defending world champions home court, while the home team kept up a trend in winning Game 7 yesterday. Times Brady's roast with the Cisco Ebert review from Lakina McGee. Time permitting, we'll go to Old School TV Monday. And the White Sox the White Sox, Blackhawks, and Bulls will have a new home, but it's not where you think. We'll explain that and a whole lot more as the second hour of Second City Sports starts after this, and you're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on this Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CKid80. Once again, it's CKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, and here's going to get the IG.
We have less than 55 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we get into some NBA playoffs talk, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and right now on Roku TV.
All right, Sid, let's go to Game 7 first. The Cavs came back from 18 down. They were down 18 going into the second half. They outscored the Magic 33-15 in the third quarter, so that propelled them in their win over the Magic. And Donovan Mitchell led the way, had a big three to kick off that comeback. He had 39 points. And this is actually a team that's actually been struggling through various injuries. I talk about the Cavs, so Donovan himself has been going through. So he kind of led the way for the Cavs in this comeback win against the Magic. Meanwhile, for the Magic, I mean, despite Paul Macaro's double, 38 points, I should say, and 16 boards. Wendell Carter Jr. had 13. But it was just like after the first half, where you thought that maybe they were chanting, get rid of everybody, fire JB Bickerstaff chants for the fans for you know how very boisterous Cleveland fans are.
Yeah.
But and I think Donovan Mitchell even said in his presser that kind of woke everybody up there. So a nice win for the Cavs, and I think this was like eight or nine games in a row that the home team has won Game 7, so something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every home team won every game in this series, going 7-0. You mentioned the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were down the man that was Jerry Allen, their starting center. We'll see if he's healthy enough to start this series for Cleveland as they face Boston tomorrow in the TD Bank North Garden. But going back to yesterday's game, you mentioned Donovan Mitchell. He put on a classic performance. He actually put on a classic performance last Friday in Orlando in Game 6, scoring, dropping a 50-piece, as the kids would say, but he didn't get any help. But he got some help from his friends yesterday. Evan Mobley, who I had questions about the last couple of years, he stepped up big time with 16 rebounds and 11 points. Darius Garland, he had 12 points. I know Donovan Mitchell spoke about him to Lisa Salters after the game, even though he has a few choice words beeped out, but we won't get into that. But Darius Garland made some big shots. Also, too, Matt Struss, the local guy, former Miami Heat player from last year's finals run, he had 13 points. And so you had contributions all and down the lineup. And Karis LeVert, the only one that did something off Cleveland's bench scoring runs, he had 15 points.
Yeah, just doing what you thought. Look, if you're Cleveland, I think you got to be feeling pretty good. You're able to come back. You have to face a Boston team that's well rested. You got to think they're on a mission, so it's going to be a little bit tough. I mean, hopefully Allen's going to be okay when this series starts. I believe on Wednesday, and yeah, we'll see if the Cavs can actually push Boston.
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see if the Cavs can push Boston a little bit. I mean, they're going to need Jared Allen to kind of at least try to make it a little bit. So they'll at least have an opportunity. So it should be interesting. We'll talk more about that in a second. Now let's go to Saturday.
Correction, Lakina, tomorrow. I was right the first time. Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay.
Tomorrow.
Maybe I got the other West Eastern Conference game mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the Western Conference, we're got the semifinals going in one series, and that is what some people probably thought would be a big surprise. And we talked about this on Friday that if the T-Wolves want to push Denver a little bit, they got to punch him in the mouth, and that's what they did at home, on the road, I should say. Anthony Edwards had 43 points, but he also got contributions from his other teammates. Mike Conley Jr. had a double-double with 14 points and 10 assists. Cat had 20 points. So it was definitely, and also, too, here's a name that a lot of people you probably may not have heard in years. Mr. Nazir Reed, formerly of LSU. Mm-hmm. He had 18 points off the bench, and he was kind of contribute a little bit too in that upset win for the T-Wolves over the Nuggets.
As we talked about too before the playoffs started, Lakina, I said that the Minnesota Timberwolves, they were statistically the best defensive team in the league, and I know many people want to gloss over that because of the rising stardom of one Mr. Anthony Edwards, and they were playing the Phoenix Suns. So many people say they'll be tested. Well, they got tested and beat the Suns very handily in a sweep, by my ad. But I hope many people paid attention to last Saturday's win, because the Denver Nuggets, even though Jokic tried to do his thing, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they were in their chest. I'm talking about the Denver Nuggets. They were in their chest from the start of the game till the end of the game. Jamal Murray struggled. Michael Porter Jr., who was also hitting big shots in the previous series against the Lakers, he was a no-show on Saturday. He struggled as well. So the Denver Nuggets have a lot of work to do. I expect them to have a better performance in Game 2. Who's going to help out Jokic? Should be Michael Porter Jr. We all know that Jamal Murray is playing gimpy right now. And I'm looking for Aaron Gordon to have a breakout game as well. We haven't seen him performed that well so far early in these playoffs. But give the Minnesota Timberwolves credit. They're a very good defensive team. You mentioned Naz Reid when he came in, because remember, Karl-Anthony Towns was in foul trouble. I think Rudy Gobert as well. And so Naz Reid, who did replace Karl-Anthony Towns toward the end of the season when Towns was out, he did a remarkable job. And as you mentioned, he did a remarkable job scoring-wise last Saturday. Scored 60 points by grabbing 4 key rebounds.
I would also say too. I mean, Jokic did his thing, but you gotta think both Karl-Anthony Towns and Lillard. I think that was probably one of the reasons why he and Gobert got the foul trouble, because they're kind of on him a lot, talking about Jokic. But he was able to still score 32 points. I know Jamal Murray's a little bit iffy, but he did get 17 points, so he did contribute there. But Aaron Gordon only 9 points. You gotta do a little bit better. Kadarius Caldwell Pope only 6 points.
He struggled.
Yeah, he's a guy that I think you gotta think. Yeah, he's gonna have to step up too, because he stepped up in the Lakers series. So did not have a good game one. Now that's not to say that he can't. The Nuggets can't come back. I doubt the T-Wolves are gonna sweep them. But look, Chris Finch, who basically is coaching on crutches, after surgery. But to his credit, though, I mean, look, they've been able to kind of they were able to kind of handcuff Denver, and to their credit, they were able to kind of pull off the big upset at home. Now they do play tonight, so we'll see if Denver can show a little bit more heart, and we'll see if they are what champions made of. So this is going to be their big test tonight.
Yes, as you mentioned, like you said, Jamal Murray, he's gimpy right now. He needs to have a better game. I'm looking for Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon to have bigger games for the Denver Nuggets tonight. And outside of Christian Brown, who had 7 points, you really didn't get anything from the Denver Nuggets bench. So I expect Denver's bench to be much better tonight.
We'll see what happens there. Now, another series that will be starting tonight in the East is Indiana and New York. Now, Indiana, of course, they finished off Milwaukee. It'll be interesting to see if the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, it'll be him and Tyrese Halliburton. Who do you think will have an edge in this series? I think I might surprise you with my prediction.
I think he may have just gave it away, but Tyrese Halliburton, as you mentioned, he's questionable for tonight's game one between the Pacers and the Knicks with a back injury. In the last series against Milwaukee, he averaged 16 points a game while dishing out 9.3 assists per game in that series win over Milwaukee. But I think what is going to come down to these two factors. The pace of play, we all know the Knicks want to slow it down thanks to head coach Tom Thibodeau. We all know that the Pacers want to run it up and score all the time thanks to Rick Carlisle and the personnel that he has on his roster. But I still believe it's going to have to come down to defense, because, Lakina, we saw what the Pacers did toward the end of that series. Even though it was an injury-riddled Milwaukee Bucks team, they actually started to play defense a little bit. We all know that's not their identity, but they started to get tough a little bit. And, of course, we saw that from the Knicks and 76ers series. The Knicks stood up to the challenge, and with the injury-riddled Embiid, they withstood that, and so they won in 6 games. But it's going to come down to the pace of play, because Indiana likes to play fast. The Knicks are a very physical team. And number 2, going to the New York side, can head coach Tom Thibodeau manage the minutes of Jalen Brunson? In 3 games against the Indiana Pacers this season, Jalen Brunson has averaged over 36 points a game. If the Knicks want to control the tempo and manage his minutes, watch out for the production of Jalen Brunson. He carried that Knicks team against Philadelphia in the last series. I think head coach Tom Thibodeau has a challenge on his managing his minutes, because the way that the Indiana Pacers play, you don't want to tire him out as long as the rest of your stars. Remember, you got Bojan Bogdanovic out for the rest of the playoffs, who they acquired via the trade deadline with that foot injury. So you're already a man down. Outside of Jalen Brunson, I want to see Dante DiVincenzo step up, especially offensively. And I want to see what McBride does in this next series against the Pacers. You saw he made a couple of big shots in the last series against Philadelphia. Also to Josh Hart, who is he going to guard for the New York Knicks? He's one of the best defensive rebounding guards in the league. Will he be on Tyrese Halliburton for the majority of the series, or will he have to guard Nate Smith or some of the other shooters? So I want to see what the defensive matchups are from Coach Thibodeau for the New York Knicks.
And I think if you're the Pacers, you want to try to set that pace. Try to do the up and down, run up and down, and score. If Halliburton, especially if that back injury does become a kind of a hindrance through the playoffs. I mean, guys like Benedict Mathurin is going to have to step up. DJ McConnell, who had who was one of the big reasons why they were able to upset Milwaukee. Aaron Nesmith, he talked about. Pascal Siakam. I mean, he's got some playoff experience too, and you got to think he's going to have to step up too. And Obi Toppin, who of course played in New York for a couple of years. So I'm sure he's going to want to kind of send a message a little bit there to give them the whip for. Also, Miles Turner. I mean, he's going to have to be more consistent too. So the key is going to be the supporting cast. I feel like, because you can set the pace all you want, but if the supporting cast isn't doing their thing, that's going to be kind of like what the thing. And the Pacers can go a little bit deeper than the Knicks. So if whatever reason Brunson gets worn out or whatever. If you're the Pacers, you want to try and do that so that if you neutralize Brunson, you're basically, especially Bogdanovich being out, you're basically kind of screw the Knicks. So if you're Rick Carlisle, this is your first rodeo either. You got to be a championship as a coach. It's his resume as well. So I think like I said, it's all going to come down to who can set the trenches and kind of like be right there, sort of like in the middle of all of that. So like I said, this could go 7. I think I got the Pacers going at 7. I'm going for the upset. I just think that I don't know if what Brunson's doing. I don't think he can keep up doing it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
I'm glad you brought up Miles Turner because he started to get better offensively as that series went on against the Milwaukee Bucks. I know he's improved offensively over the last few years. We all know what a monster he is defensively. I think that matchup between him and Isaiah Hartenstein of the New York Knicks will be an interesting one to watch. I know not too many people are talking about that, but I think it'll be an interesting matchup to watch. But Miles Turner is a big threat offensively. If you didn't watch that last series against Milwaukee, I don't know what to tell you. But watch out for him on both ends of the floor for the Indiana Pacers.
He's really their best defensive guy. So if he can kind of like set the tempo for them on defense, I think, like I said, I think the Pacers can pull off the upset. Not saying that I know I got the Pacers 7. That's don't take my pick at this base value, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. But it should be a very entertaining series nonetheless.
Yes, it is. I'll go with the Knicks in 6, even though I won't be surprised if that series goes 7. So, like you said, it should be an interesting series. And I don't want to go back on nostalgia too much, but we know there's history between these two franchises with those playoff series with Reggie Miller against Patrick Ewing, Starks, and those guys in the 90s and the early 2000s. So, like you said, will it live up to that billing? I'm not sure. We'll see if Spike Lee can keep his butt out off the cameras. I love him personally, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But it should be an entertaining series.
All right. Tomorrow, these two series, the other two semifinal series start. We'll start with the East, Cleveland and Boston. Like I said, I think I said it before. I mean, Cleveland's got guys in now the lineup. I'm sure they might be still a little bit worn out. They had a couple of days off after that win against the Magic. Boston's been rested for like almost a week. So if you're Boston, if you're Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and the rest of that group, I think you're going to want to try to send a message in this series early. So I'm not going to say the Boston will sweep, but I'll give Cleveland again. I think they'll win 1 in Cleveland, but I think Boston, there's just too much firepower for Boston, and I got them winning the series in 5.
It should be in 5 games, but I'll give you 6. Boston is 6. Here's why. I think Cleveland has a great opportunity to still win the first 2 games in Boston because you mentioned Boston's been off for a week. I think they did learn their lesson in the last series against Miami. But here's the thing. Boston, they haven't really been tested all year until now. And you saw that in their last series against Miami, especially after they lost Game 2. But for Cleveland, they're driving up off of momentum right now. Donovan Mitchell has a stuck automatic. But you mentioned, I think health for the Cavaliers is what ultimately is going to cost them. And number 2, Boston overall is just a much better team. So I want to see in this series if Jason Tatum can assert his dominance over Donovan Mitchell to say, hey, I'm a top superstar in this league. I can carry a team. Everybody else follow me. And for the flip side for the Cleveland Cavaliers, if they can get their young big men healthy, we'll see if they can challenge Boston because they still have Tatum. You still have Porzingis. You still have Al Horford still running out there doing things at his late 30s. So Cleveland, they have a challenge on their hands, but I'm with you. I'm giving Boston 6 games. It should be 5 games, but I think for some reason, I think Cleveland will sneak out another win in this series. I got Boston in 6.
Which I wouldn't be surprised if they did, steal 2. But yeah, because we know Boston tends to kind of like take games off occasionally. So we saw it through the regular season. Now, also too on tomorrow, the first game of this series in the West, you got Dallas and OKC. Should be interesting because these two split their season series. So I think for me, Luka, of course, Kyrie, Kyrie's probably the most experienced out of all the guys on both teams. So you got to think that Dallas and OKC, you wonder, okay, again, same thing, setting the tone. We know that OKC, they're kind of like a run and shoot, kind of team. And of course, Dallas, they kind of want to not necessarily slow it down, but they kind of like want to sort of like, mid-range. And of course, you got Luka and Kyrie. But I really think it's going to, of course, OKC got SGA and Chet Holmgren and the rest of that group. So to me, I think it's really going to be who can set the tone and play their style.
We know that a couple of years ago, Jason Kidd emphasized team defense, and they got all the way to the Western Conference Finals. This year, it looks like the same thing has happened, but remember they added P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford prior to the trade deadline, and that team, especially defensively, took off. And you saw that in that last series against the Los Angeles Clippers. We'll discuss the Clippers in just a moment, but you saw in the Game 6 last Friday, the Dallas defense, the Mavericks defense stepped up while the Clippers were just shooting blanks. But like I said, Luka Doncic, who's going to help him out outside of Kyrie? I'm looking for P.J. Washington to step up again, and we'll see how much you can get from that bench from the Dallas Mavericks. On the flip side for Oklahoma City, I know they're not going to be favored, but they play a up and down freestyle of basketball, which is very entertaining to watch. We've been talking about them off and on all year. You mentioned you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Chet Holmgren had a great series in the last round against New Orleans, especially without Zion Williamson. But watch out for my guy, Jalen Williams. He could be that third guy, and he kind of had an up and down series in the last round against New Orleans. So I want to see him step up against a much better team in Dallas.
I have Dallas in 6 just because I think, again, the experience. I think that's gonna. Now again, if they need PJ Washington, Tim Hardaway Jr., they need like secondary guys to step up because you don't want to wear out Kyrie and Luka. So that's gonna be like the thing here if they get more guys to step up. Now, could I see the Thunder win this series? Of course, so they were the number 1 seed for a reason. But I think, like I say, experience. I think it's going to be the edge. This is kind of when experience takes over right there. As you get later in the later rounds, I feel like.
And don't forget the Dallas Mavericks won 2 games in Los Angeles, I believe, in the last round. So I expect them to take one of the first 2 games in Oklahoma City. And like you said, no shade to OKC, but like you said, that experience for Dallas will carry through. And it should have carried through within these first 2 games of this series. Now, don't forget about Max Kleber as well, coming off that bench. He set the tone in that last series against the Los Angeles Clippers. I want to see if he could do the same thing against OKC in this next round.
Should be a fun series. Now, all these series on Monday, and the Mondays tonight, Indiana and the Knicks. That'll be the first game of the TNT doubleheader. 9 o'clock will be Denver. We'll see if they can even their series up against Minnesota, also on TNT.
Tuesday's schedule looks like this. Game 1 between Cleveland and Boston in the Eastern Conference second round. That's at 6 o'clock p.m. on TNT, followed by the Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals between Dallas and OKC, as we mentioned, the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's at 8:30 p.m. That game will also be seen on TNT.
So you got TNT, these first 3 days will be on TNT. Of course, you got Game 2 of the Pacers and the Knicks. We'll see what this series is by the time we come back on Friday. But yeah, the Game 2 will be on TNT at 7.
And on Thursday, a doubleheader on ESPN looks like this. Game 2 of the Cavaliers-Celtics series from Boston will take place at 6 o'clock on ESPN, followed by the Mavericks and Thunder Game 2 from OKC. That's at 8:30 on ESPN. And that's your schedule for Thursday and for this upcoming week in the National Basketball Association.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you now. So we got a few more minutes left in this time before we go to break. Of course, we talk about the Mavs. They finished off the Clippers over the weekend. And, I mean, you can probably say Kyrie being in and out, he was struggling when he was in the lineup. So you got to think, okay, let's rest up until, in a couple of months before they got to start training for the Olympics. But the Clippers are just, I don't know what happened there. I mean, They got their butts kicked right before Westbrook's birthday on Thursday. And it's just like, yeah, there was just no effort there. And of course, they tried to keep up with Dallas in the clincher, but of course, Kyrie and Luka hit some big shots late. So what's next for the Clippers, you think?
Well, you got the new arena that's going to be opening up in the fall for next season for the 2024-2025 season. Clippers owner Steve Ballmer, we all know he has a bunch of money in his pocket. They did re-sign Kawhi Leonard during the year. Paul George will be technically a free agent this summer. James Harden, I believe, is a free agent this summer as well. I don't know about Russell Westbrook, but we know Harden and Paul George are. Here's the thing, Lakina. You're going into a new arena. You want to show your friends that you're committed to winning. And I know that the Clippers has had hardship over the last decade or so. They had more better than competitive teams, but because of injuries and whatnot, or because of the opponents they ran into in the playoffs who are on a hot streak, they just couldn't pull through. But I think you should resign Paul George and maybe trade Kawhi. But if you want to go that route, realistically, what would you get from a player that you're only going to get maybe 55, 60 games at best, referring to Kawhi? If you want to go that route, what really could you get back for him? Because let's be honest here, the Clippers do not have any first-round picks for the next few years.
No, they don't. So if you're a management, you're definitely in a tough spot because what do you do to try to get that extra help there? So, yeah, I mean, the Clippers got some big decisions to make. And another team that's got some big decisions to make is Philadelphia. After leading big, the Knicks come back. And then, there's back and forth. And then Brunson hit a couple of big shots to end that series. Embiid, he still, did his thing despite basically on one leg. Maxey did his thing. So, he was right there. Tobias Harris, even though he was the one that kind of the reasons why he extended the series, 0 points. 0. But I'm not saying that. So.
Trust me, so Philadelphia sports fans have more to say than just the word 0 following his name, but I digress. But if you're Philadelphia, you need one more big superstar to go with Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. We saw the coming out party, no pun intended, of Tyrese Maxey this year becoming an all-star for the first time. We saw him in some moments last year, but this year, given the keys to the car from the point guard position, he really has stepped up. And we saw that in the playoffs. But they need one more guy. Who can it be now? Is it Paul George? Is it somebody else? We don't know. And can you count on Joel Embiid being healthy for at least 60% of the regular season going into next year and beyond?
Boy, a lot of questions to answer for some of these teams. Oh, and by the way, the Bulls did pick up Lonzo Ball's
talk about that.
Contract, and it looks like he has been clear for basketball activity. So could we see him in training camp later this year? Who knows? But yeah, just a little update there on that.
Yeah. Here's the thing about that before we break for the bottom of the hour regarding the Lonzo Ball and the Bulls. You know that the Bulls are going to bring him on slowly. We'll see him in training camp, but probably not working with the guys right away because obviously they want to be careful with them, and rightfully so. But let's just say he gets clearance during the first couple of months of the year, Lakina. You know he's not going to play in back-to-backs. And let's just say I don't know if he's going to play more than 3 or 4 games in a row at best, at least to start off the year. And so the problem is, assuming that everything is good to go for Lonzo Ball for next year, you still have a logjam at point guard with Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu. Now, it depends on what kind of moves that Arturas Karnisovas and Gianmarco Everson make, if they make any moves. Would you have all 3 of those? Is it a great idea to have all 3 of those guys on the roster next year? Because as we mentioned, the Bulls are $1 million away from going over the salary cap. Now you picked up that option for Lonzo Ball going to his last year of his contract. Is it a good idea to have a logjam with those 3 guys I just mentioned at the point guard position, or do you have to get rid of one of them? You're not getting rid of Lonzo Ball. I think that's safe to say. But would you get rid of Kobe White or Ayo Dosunmu, which both players have shown much improvement throughout this past season? Would you get one or both those guys if the right deal came along?
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be interesting what our AK does during the off season. I mean, he could make some moves. Maybe again, I said maybe Ryan Storff will let him spend a little bit more money. I doubt it, but you never know. We'll see what kind of change. I know he said that they know that the team that's currently constructed isn't good enough. We'll see if they actually let him do what he wants to do. I'm talking about AK. So interesting off season for the Bulls coming up as well.
Yep. As my cup is turned down, water bottle's turned down. Thank goodness, as you watch it right now on Sports on Chicago's YouTube and Facebook pages. The hourglass and the clock turns on the Chicago Bulls. So this is drama is far from over for those men in red on the west side.
Stay tuned for NHL hockey. We do that hockey as a very interesting, entertaining series, and Game 7 especially from last night. Also, too, the Sox, Blackhawks, and Bulls find a new home, and it's not what you expect. Some highlights from the roasting of Tom Brady, Old School TV Monday, and so much more. Like Keenan McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports, Sports of Chicago. We're gonna have more fun as we wrap up. Coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this very, very sunny Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kingdom again on the Twitter, X, and here's coming on the IG.
This is our last break of the show for today. If you have any last minute questions or comments, rather during our last half hour, we have less than 25 minutes left or so in this extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. You can hit us up in the comments section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And before we resume with the show, Lakina, breaking news from the world of the NBA. Rudy Gobert, the starting center for the Minnesota Timberwolves, he is questionable tonight due to personal reasons.
Interesting. Okay, so something to definitely keep an eye on. Hopefully, he'll be back in a couple of days. But whatever. If he needed to take care of some family business, he should be able to do just that. So, wish him nothing but the best there. Let's do that hockey, Sid. We'll start with a Game 7 between Dallas and Vegas. We're gonna have a new Stanley Cup champion as the Stars knock off the defending champs 2-1. And interesting stat here from about Stars current Stars head coach Dieter DeBoer. He is now 8-0 in Stanley Cup playoff Game 7s. So I guess if you should like your chances if you have him coach your team in a Game 7. It was Radek Faska's goal with just 45 seconds into the third period that helped propel the Stars over the Knights.
Yeah, it was a very entertaining game. It was a very entertaining series. Remember the first 4 games of this series, the road team won all 4 of those games. Of course, Dallas turned it around. I believe I picked Dallas in this series. If I'm not, I stand corrected, but as the kids said, don't take our picks at face value. But we talked about Dallas, having deep playoff runs. They have the talent to do it. You still have Jason Robinson. You still have old veteran Jamie Benn. But I'm going to give props to Jake Ottinger, their starting goalie. He had 22 big saves last night and a 95% save clip. And we all know in Game 7s in the Stanley Cup playoffs is all about playing tight and it's all about not giving up mistakes and not giving up too many scoring chances. It was a very close competitive game, and like you said, Vegas, they tried late, but they just didn't have enough to tie the game. And Dallas, they were very responsible, especially defensively.
Yeah, Dallas definitely showed their will in that game, and the Knights had their chances to try to like at least tie it, but they weren't able to do it. So congrats to the Stars. They're going back to the conference semifinals. It should be a fun. We'll talk about who they're going to be playing against in a second, but let's talk about the first game of the Eastern Conference semifinals. You got the Rangers hold off the Hurricanes 3 in a pretty thrilling. It was a pretty entertaining first period. The Rangers scored 3 goals. Now Jacob Slavin from Carolina. It was kind of back and forth for a little bit. Now Mr. Bregman, Tony Panarin had that go-ahead goal that kind of helped sort of seal that win. Even though the Hurricanes, they're credit, they try to chip away at that lead, but it was too much.
Yeah, we all thought that it's going to be a tough series and a long series. I still believe that it's going to be that way. Both teams had a combined total of 62 hits yesterday, 31 apiece for both teams. And in the face-off department, the Carolina Hurricanes had a +3 advantage at 26-23. So Carolina actually had that pace of the game after the first period, as you mentioned, with the Rangers. Scoring those 3 first period goals. But the Carolina, I thought, took control of the game for the second period on. They just didn't have enough to overpower the Rangers offensively. But I know you're not worried about Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised if they won the next game. So I think what they're playing for the second period on, I think they set the tone for the next game.
I feel like I said, I'd be really disappointed that it doesn't go at least 6 or 7. So I would be surprised if they take Carolina steals one tonight. So tomorrow night, I should say. Mm-hmm. So it should be interesting to see what happens in that series. Now, another game, something happened on Saturday. The Brewers, thanks to David Pastrnak and Pasta Man, as they call him, with an overtime goal of just under 2 minutes in. I was just actually getting ready to sit down, and of course, he scores the game-winning goal for the Bruins. 2-1 over Toronto. Once again, another heartbreaker for Toronto. I think this was like about 20 years since they've won a playoff series or something like that. So, or at least a game 7, I guess. It was something like that. I thought there. But I mean, Boston, I think they didn't want to be like, get sent home early again. So that was the reason why they were able to win this series.
Yeah, like I said, it was interesting to see the ratings for this game, Lakina, because of course Toronto, they don't have ABC, and of course it's in Canada. But I'm interested to see what the ratings are for this game because it was a very entertaining game. It was scoreless until the third period. We kind of predicted what was going to happen on our show last Friday, and I said out loud, whoever was going to listen and manifest what I was saying out loud as I was watching the game. As that third period started, I said, whoever scores 2 goals is going to win this game. And, of course, Toronto scored and Boston tied it. And then you mentioned David Pastrnak scored it a couple minutes into the overtime. But Boston, they really got the monkey off their back. Remember, they would have lost that game. They would have become the first team in North American sports history to blow 3-1 series leads in back-to-back years. That's not the case. And you tell that that whole roster, that whole coaching staff of the Brewers had a big relief off their shoulders. But they got to get back at it because they're going to face the team that eliminated them last year, and that's the Florida Panthers, who went on to the Stanley Cup final last year.
Well, speaking of the Maple Leafs are the second team in the 4 major sports to make the playoffs in 8 straight seasons, but win a total of only 1 playoff round over the entire span, or none at all. And of course, the other was the Sabres. They did it, they did it twice back in the 87-88 season, also 94-95. So, they joined a dubious distinction there. Now, Boston and Florida, they start tonight on ESPN, and this should be an interesting series because, like you said, I'm sure Boston's gonna want their revenge after what happened last year. They're a little more evenly matched now, and it's gonna be interesting to see. Boston. I'm sure Boston will remember that. Still probably have memories from that. So, I think set the tone early. I think like Mr. Pastrnak, Sam Reinhart. Those 2 guys are gonna be kind of going at it. Matt Tkachuk, who was one of the big reasons why the Panthers were able to pull off that upset last year. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. But I think it's gonna come down to goaltending. I think it's gonna be one of those days where like, okay, well, which either Bobrovsky, who's made some great saves, and Swayman, which one of them will probably kind of like stand on their heads and perhaps help out their team in this series?
I kind of like Boston's goalie because what happened, especially in the last 2 games of that series against Toronto. Don't forget about Boston. They're coming in with, even though they're fatigued, they're coming in with some momentum, finally getting over the 1 hurdle of getting past the first round, not blowing that 3-1 series lead. Even though they do have to face Florida, the team, as I mentioned, eliminated them last year. But Florida did have a little easier time with Tampa Bay, in the last round, eliminating them in 5 games or so. And what gives, I think it's going to come down to goaltending, as you mentioned, but I think it's going to come down to the physicality as well. Surprisingly, Florida got better as the playoffs went on last year in that department, but I think Boston is the tougher team. Yes, Florida has an edge on them because of what happened last year, but I think this Brewers team this year is more focused and ready. I still think it's going to be a drag-out series, but Boston should beat Florida in 5, but I think it was going to go 6 or 7 games. So to be safe, I'm going Boston in 6.
I also have Boston in 6. Like, I think, look, Florida kind of has their number. So until they beat them, we'll see. But I do have Boston. Like I said, they seem more focused with that. What happened a couple of nights ago, they could have just, kind of like just not show up over at TD Garden and then just, Boston fans were not like that. So I'm glad they were able to pull that off. So we'll see what happens in that series. Now, the other, the 2 Western Conference semifinal series, they start this week. Tomorrow, you got Colorado and Dallas. We know those 2 teams have had their battles in the playoffs. So what do you think? What do you think is going to happen in this series? So I think these 2 should be interesting.
Like I said, we as I mentioned before with Dallas, or we'll mention with Colorado, they have dynamic scorers. And Colorado, I know they've been battling with some injuries too, and they took care of Winnipeg pretty easily in their last round. But I think it's going to come down to who takes care of the puck the best, and I think it's going to come down to the power play. Who's going to score? Who's going to score with the man advantage on a consistent basis? Because, as I mentioned, both those teams have dynamic scores on both sides, and who could play? Who's going to play smarter? And when you get on the power play, who's going to take advantage of that? So I think it's going to come down to special teams in this series. And unfortunately, I think the Avalanche are a little bit better. So I'm giving this series to Colorado in 7.
Look, I kind of said Dallas is going to lose that series, but I know better now. I'm sorry, all you Stars fans. I like Wyatt Johnson. He's probably one of the best young players in the league. I think Nathan McKinnon. I think he's going to need some help. So I think someone's going to have to step up and help him out. So he can't do it all by himself. I think goaltending might be a little bit of a battle. So with Gugrelev and of course Ollinger, he's made some big stops, some big saves in the playoffs. So I'll say Dallas is 7. But again, don't take our picks at face value, folks. But it should be a fun series. Like I said, going back to the old days back in the late 90s and early 2000s with these two teams.
I still can't get. I was trying to avoid it, but you brought it up, Lakina. I still can't get that. I still can't get that series out of my mind in 1999 when I think it was Game 7 when Patrick Waugh, the goalie for Colorado at the time, he had his issues at times turning that puck over in his own zone. Oh, good grief!
Yeah, that was
after they beat Detroit, they lose to Dallas in the conference final. Damn it! It should have been Colorado and Buffalo that year in the Stanley Cup final, but I digress. But yeah, with years going on and times have changed. Obviously, the players have changed. It's a different game now, but I just got that sneaky feeling that Colorado's going to fight it within themselves to pull out this series. So that's why I had them in 7.
Should be a fun series, though. Will also be a fun series, a Battle of Canada. You got Edmonton and all the way on the west side of Canada, Vancouver. Look, we know these two teams, I don't want to say they don't like each other, but I think there's definitely. I don't want to say this team, but they actually do like each other, oddly enough. But of course you got Connor McDavid on one side for the Oilers, JT Miller on the other side for the Canucks. You got great coaching experience on both sides. So it's gonna be interesting to see what kind of who's gonna set the tone in this series. I think because we know Vancouver, they like to kind of they're kind of more physical. Of course, their coach Rick Tocchet, of course, how much he was back in the day. While Edmonton's more kind of the finesse, trying to play fast and try to score goals early. So it's really going to be interesting to see which of these teams can kind of set the tone.
Just like you said in the series in the NBA with the Dallas Oklahoma City series, I think experience is going to win out the day, and I'm giving it to the Edmonton Oilers. Don't forget they had their issues in the playoffs the last few years as well. Yes, you had Connor McDavid, if not the best hockey player in the world right now. The Canucks had a nice season. They did what most people expected them to do, take care of Nashville in a quick fashion, which they did. They won their last game to clinch the series at Nashville on the road, so that's a plus for them there for their young squad. But I think experience is going to win out here, and I think this series will go the full 7. You know who's really happy about this? 2 people. Rogers Sportsnet / Hockey Night in Canada on CBC and the NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman. Those 2 entities are very happy today.
Yeah, you're gonna have one Canadian team in the Western Conference Finals. So you can't really go wrong with either. They both have stars and both have great traditions. So I think those two groups are very happy.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Steele Lakina here with you. Before we move on, we'll give you the schedule for the Stanley Cup playoffs for this week. Tonight, as Lakina mentioned, only one game. That's at 7 o'clock p.m. on ESPN. That's the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers, game 1 of the Eastern Conference second round series there.
And you got a doubleheader on ESPN. You got game 2 of Carolina and New York. I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, Sid, if Carolina ties this series. And Colorado and Dallas, that's late nightcap at 8:30 on ESPN. I don't think there's going to be any brawls. I think these two actually have respect for each other, so I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, it should be a fun series, starting tomorrow night at 8:30 on ESPN.
All right, doubleheader on Wednesday now on ESPN. The Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers, game 2 of that series. That's at 6:30, followed by the Oilers and the Canucks in the Western Conference second round, game 1 of that series. That's at 9 o'clock on ESPN.
On TNT, a doubleheader here. You got the Rangers and Carolina. We'll see if the Rangers
Thursday.
be up 2. Oh, Thursday, my bad. 2-0. We'll see if they're going to be up 2-0. We'll talk about the Rangers, or will it be tied in the pivotal game 3? So we'll see what happens there at 6:00 on TNT. And Colorado and Dallas game 2 of that series on TNT at 8:30. So yeah, that is your schedule for this week in the NHL. Oh, well, the Stanley Cup playoffs, I should say.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Before we get to Lakina's Cisco and Ebert review on the Tom Brady live roast on Netflix from last night, the Chicago Bulls, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Chicago White Sox will have a new home for next season coming in October, but it's in a different location. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Shout out to the guys in The Athletic who put out this news. Apparently, they're going to be going to a Nashville-based station, which apparently has been dormant since, I guess, since the pandemic started. So, there was all these rumors about them,
Go figure.
Yeah, so, there was all these rumors about them going to stadium because that's where Jay Rice owns, a portion of that. But now they're going to go to Nashville-based company, and I guess it's going to be like Marquee Network, sort of, and for what nothing's been official yet, but I'm assuming that they're going to have the NBC Sports Chicago folks working at that station.
That's hope.
So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird, but I know Danny Wirtz, who has kind of taken control with the Blackhawks with his dad's untimely passed, so he's kind of had to go along with whatever Rice was going to do with his two teams. Mm-hmm. So what do you think? I mean, it's kind of like threw everyone for a loop, I guess.
Yeah, and that company based out of Nashville, that's what really caught my eye. And like you said, more details will come in days, weeks, and perhaps months ahead. One, Lakina, is going to be made available. How they're going to do this? Will it be a direct to consumer? Obviously, this network will be available for streaming. It looks like it's going to be available for linear cable users like yours truly. But how much it's going to cost? That's going to be an issue. And number 3, like you said, the talent that we see now on NBC Sports Chicago, we know a few people, especially behind the scenes, that do the podcasting aspect for NBC Sports Chicago. Will that be transferred over and hired over to this new station? We'll see. And I was watching our guy, Nick Morawski, and his Good Guys Talk Back podcast last night. He talks about the White Sox, and he brought up this topic, and he said that, as far as the White Sox coverage, Chuck Garfien and I again go over there. And because, most of the TV announcers are hired by the organization, but the pre- and post-game hosts most times are hired by the TV stations that they're on. And so with the White Sox side of things, you mentioned, will Chuck and Ozzy be hired by this new network? And will our guy, hopefully we can get him on this program soon, Jason Goff, who does a great job with Bulls post-game, pre- and post-game line with with Kendall Gill and Will Perdue. Will he be hired on this new venture? We don't know. So this thing is just beginning. Like I said, there's more details coming soon in days, weeks, and months ahead.
Yeah, also for the streaming people like myself, we switch over to YouTube TV. So will that be available in that form? And what happens to NBC Sports Chicago? Will it kind of cease to exist? So will it kind of turn into
end up happening anyway?
Yeah, so do they perhaps maybe become a different kind of NBC Universal? They're trying to get out of this regional sports business anyway. So they'll be out of, we feel bad for some of the folks, but we know some of the people that work there behind the scenes. So could be interesting to see what happens here. I mean, they're supposed to launch in October, so we're in May now, so that's about 5 months. So that's not a lot of time. So they're going to have to figure all this out. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, remember the last time that the Chicago Sports Network had this kind of switch. Remember Fox Sports Chicago, they went to CSN, which is CSN Chicago, now NBC Sports Chicago, back in October 2004. Remember FSN, at least on most cable systems, including the one that I'm on, it ran in operation for the next, I believe, 2.5 years. I believe back in late 05, early 06, they eventually cut it because it was no longer in use because they really didn't do any live sporting events. They ran the Best Damn Sports Show, Beyond the Glory, and some other taped program, but never any live events because all the stuff was on CSN at the time. So if NBC Sports Chicago eventually will go away, I don't know if it'll be on as long as FSN was here in Chicago after the switch. But Eventually, it'll go away. But like you said, all this stuff will play out in the coming weeks, days, and months ahead.
To be continued, as they say. This is Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Keenan McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Tom Brady got roasted. Well, not literally, but of course, some people would take it literally. On Netflix special, The Roast of Tom Brady, which aired last night. If you don't subscribe to Netflix or if you missed it, don't worry, it's on YouTube, so you can go back and catch the replays there. We could play some of the clips, but we probably lose our license, so we won't. Because it was makes it no holds bar, I guess. You had Kevin Hart was the MC, had Jeff Ross kind of the co-MC. You had people like Nikki Glaser who killed it, Sam J. They both killed it. Of course, you got Bill Belichick made an appearance on there. There were some rumors where that he may or may not. Also, to Mr. Peyton Manning, of course, he kind of left right afterwards after he did his little his thing, and of course, Randy Moss and Julian Edelman, they had jokes, and of course, to Gronk, poor Gronk. I mean, he was going to the ringer. So,
Belichick made a joke of why don't you quit your job or something like that.
Yes, he does TV for Fox.
Fox, yeah.
Fox, yep, on their NFL Sunday pregame show. But really think the other guy that I think had the best lines was Drew Bledsoe. Of course, he was first up, and of course, made the jokes about perhaps he was in the hospital while Brady started playing, and he never, of course, the rest was history there. So it was actually pretty funny. But I think Eli Manning had the best line. He tweeted this out earlier this morning. He didn't go to the roast yesterday like his brother, but he did say, "I thought about attending the roast of Tom Brady last night, but I did not want to roast him for a third time." So even in tweeting, he kind of won the night there. So I said, "What did you think?"
Nice little pun by Eli Manning, because if you don't know that, for reference, he beat Tom Brady in his only 2 Super Bowl appearances with the New York Giants back in 2007 and then again in 2011. But I didn't get a chance to see it last night. I saw a couple of clips on social media, and I think we talked about this before he went on air live. And Bill Belichick came out, and I guess he was talking to Drew Bledsoe, talking to Tom Brady rather, and then Drew Bledsoe came out. Was like, "Brady, the fans want you to see you again," blah blah blah. And then Drew Bledsoe came out, and Bill Belichick was like, "Oh, you got to sit this one out," something to that effect. And then I guess that's when the whole program started. And then of course Randy Moss, I read a quote via social media this morning. You could back me up on this. Why did not we cheat when I was there?
Yeah, that was hilarious. That was actually pretty funny when he said that. But again, that was weird because it actually won the Super Bowls. The Giants Super Bowls was when, of course, the 16-0. Of course, we all saw what happened after that. But yeah, I know some people say it was kind of out of bounds. Pardon me, but I mean, it's a roast. Pretty much anything goes. So if you're not, you're pretty. If you're not tolerant to insults, we played the Dozens back in the day. I mean, people who were offended by some of the stuff that was said. I mean, look, it's a roast. Yes, other folks gonna get targeted, and some people deserve to be targeted. Sorry, ladies of the view who thought that. Never mind. But I'll talk to you about that off air, Sid. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like the roast. I think Tom Brady was a EP, so he's making some money, and of course, I'm sure he kind of had a say on what was out of bounds and what wasn't. So I thought it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, especially if you're the executive producer. Yeah, you have full control. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. That's how this business goes. But I heard it was a live studio audience as well. Was that true?
Yeah, it was in front. It was in the old Forum.
Oh, where the Lakers played. Yeah, in old LA Kings too.
Yep. So that's where it was. They booed Kim Kardashian. I'm not a big fan, but I don't know why they booed her. But there was definitely some a little adult beverages flowing. So this is not for kids. So don't let the kids listen to this. But I thought it was a solid roast. I mean, look, a roast. It is what it is. A roast is a roast. So if you were offended by it, then look, don't watch. That's all I can say to you guys.
All right. So would you give it a 1 thumb up, 2 thumbs up, a thumb up, a thumb down? What would you give it?
I give it a thumbs up. Yeah. I give it a thumbs up. Yeah. I thought it was good.
I'll find some time and check it out this week. So that's Lakina's Cisco Ebert review on the Tom Brady roast for last night. Anything else, Lakina, before we get to my special shortened edition of Old School TV Monday?
No, that's about it. I I think. We forgot to talk about the close finishes in both. Mystic Dan edged out the two favorites for the Kentucky Derby. We talked about them on Friday, but yeah, he edged them out. And literally, it was a nose finish. So congrats to him, and we'll see what happens in the. I think the Preakness is in a couple of weeks, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we'll get a big finish there. Also, NASCAR had a really close finish yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was whoever was driving car number 5. I believe the tip of his front bumper reached the white line, and I forgot who he was driving against. But I saw the highlights on.
Kyle Larson, that's Kyle Larson.
Thank you. He barely beat his opponent last night. Just the tip of his front bumper reached the white finish line, and I saw it on the highlight package last night. I was like, you usually don't get those in NASCAR, especially, but it was. We always say that sports is measured by inches, and that's exactly what happened last night in the state of Kansas.
Yeah, we really had like a nose to nose or a bumper to bumper nose finish.
Yeah.
So congrats to Mystic Dan, of course, Kyle Larson. I think it's like his 20th, NASCAR Cup win. So this is probably the closest. He actually even tweeted about it and said, "Hey, look, guys, this is like my closest finish." So that was actually pretty funny. But a nice wins all around. But in a theme of close finishes this weekend.
I know some folks are late to the party, but NASCAR will be returning to Chicago this year on 4th of July weekend this year. If we get anything close to that, I think it'll be remarkable for the city of Chicago.
Hopefully the weather's better, because remember what happened last year? It rained
with the delay for a couple hours. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they had to shorten the race. So I think they're better prepared for it this time, and hopefully the weather is better.
Yeah. All right, Lakina, as we wrap up today's show right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, this is a shortened edition of Old School TV Monday. Of course, we forgot to, first of all, happy birthday to the Baseball Hall of Famer, MLB legend, Willie Mays. Today's his birthday.
Hey.
So we give a shout to him. I know Bob Bavellini, the Chicago Bears quarterback from the late 70s, he passed away over the weekend. So RIP to him, and peace and love to him and his family from us at Second City Sports and Sports Zone Chicago. So I know he was there during the early years of the late great Walter Payton in the 70s there. The Bears made a playoff appearance in 77, I believe, and Bob Bavellini was the quarterback there. So he passed away over the weekend. So rest in peace to him. And my Old School TV Monday, this was pretty easy for me. I watched it on Saturday via the YouTube on my laptop. James Brown, the man, the music, the message. That's right. And James Brown, who passed away on Christmas Day in 2006, his birthday was actually this past Friday. We forgot to mention it on the show. Of course, I'm talking about the Godfather of Soul. Of course, he had numerous hits in his 40-plus decades of music from the 50s, 60s, 70s, yes, even the 80s, folks. And, of course, he is known as one of the world's best dancers and entertainers. You have everybody following him in his footsteps, like Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger, of course, all the performers of today like Usher and Chris Brown. And, of course, with this documentary, The Man, The Message, and Music, it was released in 1990, but the clips of his funeral was released in 2007. I remember watching it on TV One. Of course, the Reverend Al Sharpton did his funeral at the old Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York. And at that time, the interview was hosted by the legendary TV host Cavett. And they talked about his career and, of course, his legendary performances, especially in you remember he was in Boston Garden the night that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. It turned out to be his concert. It turned out to be a plea for those people in Boston, people across the country, to stop the violence. We all know how much those race riots, changed cities, including here in Chicago. But James Brown not only did his work on stage, he did his work off stage as well, helping kids through education, speaking at colleges and holding benefit concerts. And this documentary, The Man, The Message, the music, The Man, The Message is very great. So if you have a chance to check it out online, check it out, please. You can check it out on YouTube.
Yeah, I remember watching that special, and he was very, very candid. He shared some of the various drug issues that he went through, of course, the
Hmm.
music and whatnot. Of course, he was also a social activist, so he definitely kind of epitomizes what music was like back in the the 50s and in the 60s. So you know, I actually saw an old clip from I guess when he was doing some stuff from CBS when sports when the men's basketball championship was in New Orleans, and of course he did a little ditty there. Of course, James Brown, CBS's James Brown at the time he was doing this was actually right before he left for Fox. Talking about the other James Brown, of course, he was doing the games for CBS at the time. So kind of like very unsung hero kind of thing. They actually he wasn't very close with his family because there was various issues that he
Hmm.
had. But to his credit, though, they actually were able to kind of like pass things up. When right before he got real sick and he passed on. So yeah. So if you guys still get a chance, I haven't watched in years, but I do remember watching that, and you'll definitely check that special out. It's right there on YouTube.
Yeah, and I remember TV1 ran it for many years after his passing. They didn't run it over the weekend. So, like I said, it's available online. The James Brown, the man, the message, the music is available almost on all streaming platforms. I think a couple of them you may have to pay for, but if you have to, it's worth it. So, and he did touch on it a little bit, not too much, but he did touch on it the time he went to jail. Remember back in '88, and he only served 2.5 years. He got off on good behavior. Of course, he went on to resume his career. And outside of us talking about it for a little bit, you really don't hear about that part anymore, Lakina, because at that time, everybody thought his career was over. It turned out it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. So yeah, he was able to kind of get back into kind of got back to the top of the charts, and of course his music will always live on. So
Hmm.
really good pick, Sid. Very
Thank
solid
you.
pick there.
Yep.
Oh, and also
And go
no,
ahead.
go ahead, sir. No, you finish up.
Okay, for Old School TV Monday for this week, James Brown, the man, the message, the music is we salute that special 1990 special today. All right, Lakina, now you can close us out.
No, just want to say this. A happy 26th anniversary to Kerry Wood's 20 strikeout game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, Kerry Wood's 20 strikeout game, probably one of the most famous games of his. And I remember where I had to stay after school. It was for detention, folks. It was like a school. No, I will say, yeah. Well, Lord, what did you do? No. It was a school requirement I had to do, so I couldn't watch. I didn't remember there was no social media or like ESPN.com was barely a thing yet. But I remember I got back and I remember Jim Rose, of course, who was now retired, talked about that game. Of course, unfortunately, he didn't really. I'm talking about Kerry Wood couldn't really build off that. I mean, he did go to a couple of All-Star games, but just his arm kind of gave up on him after that game. But this kind of question because I think he had 130 pitches or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But to his credit though, look, he's still beloved, with the Cubs, and I think he and his family still live in Chicago or near Chicago, so they do go to Cubs games from time to time. So I just want to give a shout out to that great 20 strikeout game.
Yes, I remember watching some of that. After I was in high school at the time. I was a junior in high school. I remember watching that, coming home from school, and of course I had to go to the barber shop that day. Shout out to Tom Styward at 86 and Racine. So I followed the game on the radio. Of course, I'm not a Cubs fan, but I'm a big fan of any sports history and baseball history in particular. Of course, he was striking out to everybody, and of course I remember that famous post-game interview he did with Chip Carey and Steve Stone WGN. He was literally shaking because he couldn't believe what had just happened. So it was a nice moment for him and for those Cub fans. And of course, we all saw what happened with that year with that team in 1998. Of course, with Sammy Sosa 66 home runs, they won the tiebreaker against the San Francisco Giants. Of course, the Atlanta Braves served them some humble pie, sweeping them in 3 straight games in the division series.
Yeah, definitely kind of like a whimper there with that season, but yeah, it's definitely started off. Well, of course, they played the Astros. That was when the Astros were still in the National League at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think he only had like one or two. I think he only gave like 1 or 2 hits in that 20 strikeout game. So imagine if he had hit a no-hitter and the 20 strikeouts. I mean, oh boy, he really
exactly. Yeah.
Shaking then. So just want to give a salute to that the 26th anniversary of that great game.
Yeah. And one more quick note about that, Lakina. No, we gotta get up out of here. Remember the Astros, like you said, who won the NL Central that year? They got Randy Johnson, and the Cubs didn't.
Yes. I'm still miffed about that. I'm still miffed about that.
Every Cubs fan should be.
The Brass was sneaking there and got him when the Cubs actually had a chance to get him. So
yeah, real quick. I know I actually keep on saying real quick. I was listening to. Yeah, I remember listening to the score on I forget. It was I wouldn't forget. It was a beautiful Saturday morning. Remember the late great Dave Baum? He did Saturday mornings for a while.
Yes.
I remember he said, "Good morning, Cub fans. You have a new left-handed reliever. No, it's not Randy Johnson. It's Felix Heredia." So if you're a Cub fan, you are pissed.
yes. Felix Heredia. Oh Lord, he actually did okay. Well, what? We'll get to all that another time. But yeah. So now on that note, you can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kiosk again the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast, WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can get Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. Whatever device you have, download the Roku TV app. Type in Sports on Chicago. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up Cuz, and the whole other content. It's all right there for you. So if you miss any shows, just go on the Roku TV and catch Sports on Chicago right there for you anytime, anywhere.
And we will provide.
All right, so enjoy all the great playoff, both basketball and hockey. And don't forget, get the schedule release for the NFL coming up this Thursday. So I know NFL. Well, why should we talk about NFL Network too? Because they could be changing hands. We'll give you guys a teaser.
That's right.
Yeah, so we'll give you a teaser about that. And of course, the baseball and so much more. I know the WNBA, they had some good rates. Hope they can build off that for their preseason games.
I want to talk about that on Friday. Yeah, we don't have time to. I want to talk about that on Friday. They had some missteps over the weekend, but we'll get to it on Friday.
Yes, definitely. And so we'll get all that. We'll get to all that Friday. But for right now, for Sid, I'm the Kansas Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Holla!